was actually 13, and I had saved up $187 of birthday money, and I bought rubber Super Balls online from Oriental Traders, and I'd sell them on keepitbouncing.com.
What happened with that business?
No one bought anything.
Jon Frendl is a seasoned entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in web and mobile application development. He's built 2 successful companies which have served clients ranging from startups to Fortune 500 companies.
To fail allows you to now see what didn't work and what to adjust, and you have this ability, I think, to form new neural pathways because of the pain and the failure that you can now learn from, and they're with you the rest of your life. And it's kind of like those bones healing stronger than they were before in those areas, and end up being the very things that you're going to build the next thing on top of. You're going to do things better the next time in ways you never would have done, and have a different, better business the next one because of the past failure, the failure.
Today, for Jon's perspective, let's see what he thinks about being a true entrepreneur is all about. And we'll sit down with our panel and see what their thoughts are on starting a business in today's current economic climate. Without any further ado, let's dive right into American Game Changers. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you guys to the show. Thank you guys for coming on. First, we have David Crouch with TikTok and Dylan Wilson from Chapman University. So my question for you guys is that we're in a kind of a crazy economy. Inflation's up, things are a little bit wild, and there's a lot of young people out there that are thinking about, starting a business or maybe taking it easy and just joining a well-known company like Coca-Cola or something and just taking just a regular job. What is your guys' thoughts? What do you guys think? Is it a time for a young person to make a business and make a startup? Let's go with you, David.
I think 100%. So there's a couple of different options you have to weigh there. There's one, do I want to go out and get experience from a big company and kind of learn the ropes, how it works and everything? And the same thing applies to the investment world, which I'm in. Or 2, do I already know my field and do I see an opportunity and a niche that nobody else is channeling or going for where I can take that opportunity and run with it?
Dylan, David seems pretty optimistic there. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so actually, I think that as well as David, businesses are great ideas. If you look at the economy, we're in a huge gig economy right now. And with the power of the internet, pretty much anything's possible. So I think that creating a business is a great idea.
So both of you are very optimistic. So well, let me hear then, why wouldn't I want to start a business? What should I be looking out for if I'm going to start a business right now? Let's go with you, Dylan.
I think that the main thing you'll have to look out for is just potentially competition. Everyone's trying to, it's kind of a job craze right now. I feel like a lot of people are trying to start jobs, start businesses. So I think the main thing would be competition. Look out for that. And then maybe not putting in enough work. I know a lot of people are kind of dreamers. So if you're starting a business, you have to go all out.
I think that's a very good point, but you also have to watch out for what the regulations are. Maybe government regulation on the specific industry you're trying to go for is very heavy. Lawyer costs to even try and navigate that can be very costly. So before you start the business, you have to really weigh, what are the startup costs going to be? What's it going to cost me to go into this? What am I going to have to pay in legal fees, filings, everything like that, and just see if it's viable first.
So I'm going to give you last question. I'm going to give you guys both a scenario here. You start up a business, it goes good for 2 years, and then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled underneath you, business is belly up. What do? David?
I think it has to do with what type of space the business is in, because like with COVID shutting down a lot of things, that's not the end of your business, for example. It just puts your business on hold and, you have to wait, scale things down a little. But overall, there's never, I wouldn't say never, because sometimes there is times where, you just got to shut down the business to save money. But I'd say you have to really look at the situation on what's the cost of putting forward my business and do I keep running it or what's the opportunity cost there, right? Or do I just, weather the blow and maybe I'll jump back the next quarter. But it all depends on the scenario, what's going on and what the business does exactly.
So you say keep fighting. What about you, Dylan? What do you think?
Keep fighting.
David gave a great analysis there. I think kind of like what he was saying, the most important thing to look at is the sunk costs. So like how much time, how much money you put into this. Was it your dream idea that you had, or was it just a starter business you had that could propel you into something better? In one of my classes recently, we were talking about how a certain company made 50 movies, a production company, before they had a final hit movie. So it's like, are you afraid you're going to have that hit, or are you just going to, go on to the next one?
Awesome. I love that you guys are so optimistic. I was kind of expecting you guys to say, hey, the economy is awful. There's no way. Get a job. But I'm happy to hear that you guys are optimistic about it. Thank you guys so much for joining American Game Changers. Hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
So we just had our panel on.
Yes.
And we talked to them, talked to David Crouch from TikTok. We talked to Dylan Wilson from Chapman University. And my questions to them were basically, you just heard, was how do they feel about starting a business in this type of economy? You know, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of thought they would be like a little hesitant. I thought they would be like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy out. Inflation, gas, it's all crazy. But they were a little optimistic. Should they be?
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because I think any entrepreneur, if they really understood the weight and the fullness of what they're getting into, they probably wouldn't jump, right? Mm-hmm. I think there is, and I'm not saying that they then themselves do or don't know, what it means to start a business in this climate or not. Maybe none of us do, all the factors. But the fact is, I think no matter what the economy is, if you have the mentality of actually looking to serve your fellow man and woman, right? And at first, and be okay with, then we'll make money for myself, but only once they are served well, only once I make sure that they're good, right? You go into anything with that mentality over time, you're going to find a good business. You're going to find a good model around that. When you're actually seeking to serve first like this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and in a time like this with there's so many things getting disturbed, there's a lot of disruption happening. And I think it is absolutely the case that major industries, those who have the crowns from before, can suddenly be replaced by those who are coming up with new innovative ways to serve people, to care for something that they need, something that someone else needs.
Starting with the service part first, it's figuring out how to find that need, and how do I help someone. I gave the scenario to them that, what happens, they were very optimistic. What happens, you lose that business, you start it 2 years, then what? Then I probably should have said to them, you have family, you have people come in,
I applaud it. Because,
what should you do after that?
Because if you hit a failure, that means you've given some serious energy and time and thought and pushed it forward to get to the point where you could fail. And now you're able to learn from that. And it doesn't feel good in the moment for someone who just failed to hear this, right? So that is some of the most painful stuff when you fail, to fall on your face in front of people. And I think one of the big things, first of all, with failure, just for a second, I'm going to tangent here.
Yeah.
The question is, why start a business, really? And I think, if the business is being started so that for social standing, so that you are cared for by others and maybe admired, maybe loved by others, right? If you need it to succeed for those kinds of deep inner reasons, right? Then it's much harder when it fails. And I think asking the question why is a big piece. But settling some of those things, right? To fail allows you to now see what didn't work and what to adjust, and you have these this ability, I think, to form new neural pathways because of the pain and the failure that you can now learn from, and they're with you the rest of your life. And it's kind of like those bones healing stronger than they were before in those areas, and end up being the very things that you're going to build the next thing on top of. You're going to do things better the next time in ways you never would have done, and have a different, better business the next one because of the past failure, the failure.
But at what point do you just say, you know what, I'm going to go work at the shop down the street.
There's no shame in that. No shame in that. In fact, I think the trade schools, like to become an apprentice of someone and to go put in those, they say it in the creative world, the 10,000 hours to do a certain trade, absolutely, there's no shame in that.
Right.
Very few, I think, are actually truly prepared or even called to being an entrepreneur, as it were, right? And entrepreneurs do not succeed alone, right? I know from my experience, I'm a visionary and I have a very particular thin skill set of ability to do, maybe connect certain dots in certain ways and rally people about certain, great. It's an entire team of individuals coming together, right? I think very few are actually really the entrepreneur side. I think many people might say that they're a business owner, but they're really more of a cottage shop that if something happens to them, they're part of a larger business and collection of businesses, right? And that is okay and good and wonderful, right? And it should be able to be like that.
Yeah, I think my thought is, I think that everyone should just go out, try, make that leap.
Yes.
Do everything they can, but it's, like you said, it's okay that you're not being the rock star business owner, Mark Zuckerberg, person right out the gates.
Right.
Maybe it takes a little humbling and takes a little going to work at the shop, Target, or wherever it may be.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, whatever it may be. Just taking a basic job, and then going off from there.
Because either way, you're still part of just a team.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah, like there is an awesome responsibility that does come with if you're the one that is the final decision maker, if you're the one that has majority of equity and funds that you have to decide to steward one way or another. You got to lavish yourself and just buy another Lamborghini, or you got to be caring for those who are outside, who are hungry, who are in need. What are you going to do? This is a big responsibility, right? And I think it has a lot of implications, certainly for the person outside who's alone and hungry and maybe in pain.
What's your advice on bringing people into a team and creating a
simple.
team?
Well, it's hard, but it's simple. It absolutely is the core values. And core values are tricky because you don't want to just pick core values, and I'm stealing this from other people, right? I learned this. You don't just pick core values like integrity. Well, you've got to have integrity, okay? And there's these pay-to-play things that are like, okay. And then there's these aspirational core values that can exist that are, and that's fine. Core values really should be, what are the 3 to 5 things that you are today? And what are those core values? And they're going to exist regardless of if you're thinking about it or not. And it is the job of the leader and those who are ultimately responsible to identify and to clarify and to constantly now hire and fire and reprimand and reward based on those few core values, right? I'll give you a couple examples. Like we have a core value of being curious and learning, which means we can't just be stuck to one technology that we're going to be egomaniacs about. Like you have to build it on this tech because it's the best. What if instead curiosity is a core value? Well, what else is out there? We should constantly be, as technologists, everything is changing every day. We have to constantly be letting ourselves be in that space of curiosity. The other is keeping commitments. Well, we need to keep commitments, right? If we say we're going to do something, we got to do it, right? So these are examples. Now, if you have just a few of these core values and you're building a culture that is around these core values and everybody personifies these, right? This is a foundation for lasting, sustainable success.
Wow. I think that can never be so understated about the values. So I want to start from the beginning. What was the very first business that you had?
Yeah, so the first one, I was actually 13, and it was an e-commerce business. And I had saved up $187 of birthday money, and I bought rubber Super Balls online from Oriental Traders, and I'd sell them on keepitbouncing.com. It was, I had to figure out how to get a logo design and a website and sell them.
You made the website,
and,
Keep It.
Oh yeah. I built the website, had a UPS shipping account and a PayPal account and all these things. And the shipping costs more than the product, which it's like, are you crazy, right? And I'd ship them in these pipes, which ended up looking like a little strange in the mail, obviously. And because I thought it was kind of cool, and just really a lot of learnings. I mean, you had an inventory sheet and all these things, and just figuring it out along the way. Yeah.
So what happened with that business? Where did it go from there?
No one bought anything. I thought people would show up to my website and buy things, and they didn't.
Right.
So then from there, a few years later, Adwords came out, and Google AdWords. And it had been out for a few months, and I built easycarspot.com, and I was like, oh, this is great. People describe the favorite car they're looking for, and then I'd go sell those leads 3 to 5 times, and so you'd pay about $11 in pay-per-click, and then sell the lead 3 to 5 times for $25 each to car dealerships. So it's like printing money. But I'd walk into these car dealerships as like a pimply child saying, buy my leads as a 16, 17-year-old, and be like, what are you, do you have a company? Do you have a corporation? Like, how do I write a check to you?
And they're 16, 17 years old when you were doing this?
Yes.
You were driving yourself, or?
Yeah, no, I remember my father actually dropping me off at because I wasn't allowed to drive alone at that time. So he'd drop drop me off at car dealerships. I remember this one, it was like a Mazda dealer near my house. And I walked in and I was like, can you buy look at this guy wants this Mazda in your lot, pay me $25 and I'll give you the contact info. And he's like, no, we get all our leads from these other sources. We don't use the internet to get car leads. And I was like, and so anyways, I remember Googling, what is a contract? And what is a corporation? I mean, can you imagine, I didn't even know any of this, but I built the website, the logo. I remember I spelled welcome wrong on the homepage. But figuring it out, right? Trying to solve the different challenges.
What year did this start?
Like 2005 or something. I don't know, something like that.
So it was still, the Google and everything was not as, the internet, I guess, wasn't as.
AdWords was months old. Google AdWords. The ability to buy ads on Google was like a few months of a concept.
Wow.
Just out.
Wow.
So it was kind of like so it was cheaper to buy ads at that point because no one was doing it yet. But there's these huge gaps in knowledge, obviously.
Right. So what happened with this business? So you're going to the car dealerships.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up just giving leads away and having case studies right around it. It's like I got 75 people found cars, and then I moved on to the next idea. That did become a pretty big industry, after that. So probably should have stuck to it, but just kept going. Well, then what's the next way we can leverage the internet?
What started off that really, really took off? What was the business that got you that really changed things for you? Yeah,
I mean, we got the opportunity to build, as a consulting firm, the contract for payyourrent.com. And that was really awesome. So awesome guy, Kevin there. And building a PCI compliant solution. They're the second largest rent management platform in the US today. And that was an incredible opportunity. A lot of, very simple equation in anything that you approach. If you actually are looking to add value to everybody involved in whatever you're building and doing, that really is the end goal, more than just making money. Money follows, right? But if you're really looking to add value to those people, right?
So going off of that, when starting this business, what did you say? Where was the value that you were adding when starting this business?
That particular one?
Yeah.
So for payyourrent.com, one of the things that was totally brand new was having a white label to your community. So you can imagine someone in an apartment complex now going to a branded portal to pay their rent, to fill out their rental application, and it just feels like it's all cohesive and part of the community. And being able to handle those logistics and have low fees for the people who are doing that. It was a total new thing to even have that as a concept. Also, I would say the ability of people to move from making payments with credit cards or checks to moving to ACH payments. So we found a way to safely handle ACH, which was not easy back then. I mean, that was many years ago. Yeah.
And that was something I wanted to bring up with you. You are a very strong Christian.
Yeah.
And
you
journaling, you having this relationship with God. How does that impact your business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can be in the positive. Some may say, well, you do these things and then it'll be like super wealthy or not. Well, I was actually led by God not to invest 20 grand in Bitcoin when it was $11 a Bitcoin. I'll give you an example just on a site. I just am going to take that for a second.
Yeah.
And that was a
I want
moment.
to ask you about that. Yeah.
Right? I mean, this sounds like kind of a crazy time, and my wife and I really prayed about it and felt very led not to do that. He told me that my mind would be tied to the ups and downs of Bitcoin, and I wouldn't be going on the path that I was meant to go on. I wouldn't be here today in the same way, right? Back then, that was 9 years ago or so. And how it impacts in the business. I mean, I think I bring challenges and opportunities to that space of my time with God, and I pray and ask for wisdom and clarity, and I think I get that a lot, and I'm very thankful for that. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times there's also when you're able to have forgiveness, and whether it's with customers or clients or vendors or partners, I find that to be the source of the ability to forgive for me. That is just it's kind of like I am forgiven and in a restored relationship, so it's better I can do that now with others, and that certainly impacts the business.
Yeah, I've actually found that, in my just ongoings, and that people sometimes will step on your toes, do things, and maybe it's not even intentional.
Yeah.
And if I harbor and don't have a spirit of forgiveness in some form, I could be at war and battling and dealing with issues nonstop. So I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
My last question for you.
Sure.
And this is a question that I like to ask every single person that comes here.
Oh.
And it's a question of hope. What is there, if you had to give a message of hope to the next generation, to the next, just for you, the next generation of entrepreneurs, if you had to give a message of hope, what would that be?
It's very simple. Every one of us are going to have times where we hit some serious painful moments. Some rock bottom times when we feel so lonely and so hurt and so abandoned and so abused by other people, by things around us. In those moments, I just want you to remember that you can cry out. Like when a kid cries out, when a baby cries, there's no professional way to do that. Okay, they haven't figured, they're just doing what is natural. Just natural, just cry out. And if you cry out for the whatever religion or whatever place you're at, whatever is the best and most loving thing in the universe that's behind it all, maybe. If you have a moment of, you can just believe if this thing exists and is loving, if please, like, I need help. And just watch what happens. The comfort you will receive is that spark that you need to get to make it out of that season. I have found that over and over and over to be the case. And I think, and there's so many people around the world, the same thing. There's a comfort and a light and a peace in those times of the most darkness that is undeniable and leads to the next step and the next step. And for me, it's a growing relationship with the one true living God. That's what I have found it to be. And I love that verse when it says that God loves us so much that he sends Jesus Christ to come and to die and to raise from the dead so that we can actually be in relationship with him. I just believe that. I do. And there's more evidence of that than anything else in terms of any other book. And there's a museum of the Bible. And some friends were involved in creating and launching its greatest collection of biblical artifacts. And the things there, it is not a leap. It's not a big leap of faith to understand that the person of Jesus Christ and how the Bible has impacted. I love it. When I'm there are rabbis, there are nuns, there are Christians, there are individuals and monks walking around. It truly has impacted the world. Anyways, I'm rambling a little bit.
No, but that's great.
I'll tell you, every one of us will hit those moments. We will hit those moments when it's so dark, and we can just cry out, God, whatever you are, whatever is out there that is the best and the loving and the most good thing and the most source of light, please help me.
Right.
You will feel comfort. You will. You will. Just try it. It'll happen.
Well, you know what, Jon? To me, seeing you, meeting you, going to where you work, and looking at your business, there was something different automatically. There was a positivity, there was a truthfulness that you don't always run into. That's why I wanted you to become on the show. I wanted to talk to you. So hear your point of view and how you accomplish what you do. And so I'm just so grateful for you being here, and thank you so much for stopping by American Game Changers.
It's my pleasure.
Absolutely.